Hello everyone, welcome back to Relax with Animal Facts. I am Steph Wolf, and today I'm going to be learning with you about our furry, scaly, or possibly even slimy friends. In today's case, it is definitely going to be one furry friend known as the hyena. So an absolutely amazing animal, and this animal is dedicated to Shannon, who wrote into the show not via email but via Instagram. So for those of you that maybe Instagram is more of an accessible thing than email, you can always follow the podcast at RWAF Podcast, and there you can send me animal requests if you'd like. You can send me criticism or what you like about the show, anything. It is all absolutely welcome. So thank you all so much who follow me on Instagram already. And again, that's RWAF Podcast. Or if you want to hear your animal on the show, you could always write in to relaxwithanimalfacts@gmail.com, and I respond to each and every one of you that write in. So thank you guys so much. So for those of you that are following me on Instagram, I posted an Instagram story of me holding a little baby robin. So what's been going on the past few days, right outside my in my backyard, there on this little light fixture thing that we have above our house, there was a little bird's nest of robins, and it seemed as though every baby robin flew away except this one. And here we brought it into the house just because it was outside, and it's not able to fly yet. I'm training it to fly, basically. We went to the store and we bought this sort of thing of worms, and we've been feeding the bird robin, the baby robin, up worms every hour, and trying to I'm training it every day to be able to fly so it can go on and live its little robin life. So it fell out of the nest initially, I believe, and then its siblings flew away maybe a day or two later. So now I'm just trying to, I suppose, I don't know if the right word is rehabilitate, but really get this bird up to par and allow it to go hunt and live its life as a normal bird. So that is exactly what has happened here. So this bird has been has been very comfortable on my finger and stuff like that, and it's grown kind of accustomed to it. But what I really want is for this animal to be able to go out and not be reliant on humans, right? To be reliant on itself. So I'm doing my best to do that properly. I've Googled certain things to figure out how to do that. So I'm trying my best, and I will update on the next episode specifically what's going on with little baby robin. So without any more dilly-dallying, we're going to go straight into the show. So I got my facts from Live Science or livescience.com. They have been a staple for a long time on the show here, ever since episode 1, I think, on the orangutan episode. So Live Science always has good facts and fairly reliable from what I've seen. I haven't got any angry emails just yet, so that is definitely a plus. So first off, many people compare hyenas to dogs, but it's written here that they're actually much more like cats, which is something that I would not have known. And in fact, they are members of the suborder Feliformia, which is a classification for cat-like carnivores, and that is according to the ITIS. That's an acronym for Integrated Taxonomic Information System. It is a system that researchers and I suppose animal biologists can refer to get sort of an easier time with the animals, because having a classification system is huge, especially when the amount of animals that we discover, every year, are in the thousands. So I think that that is very important. And there are 4 different species in the hyena family, and they will vary in size. So there's the spotted hyena, the brown hyena, the striped hyena, and the aardwolf. And in today's show, we're going to go into each one just because they are fairly different and have their own sorts of things. And it is fairly common in many species to have or like in families, to have these different sorts of species that are fairly different, even though they're somewhat similar. So starting first with the spotted hyena. So the spotted hyena is the largest species of hyena that there is currently, I suppose, and it grows to about 4 to 5.9 feet long. Of course, not in height. That would be fairly scary there. 4 to 5.9 feet long and 2.5 to 2.6 feet tall. So still fairly tall, for an animal of this size in terms of their weight, because they weigh about 88 to 190 pounds. For those of you that prefer kilograms, don't worry, you don't have to pull out your calculators. It is 40 to 86 kilograms for the spotted hyena. And unlike other species, the spotted females are 10% heavier than males, according to the San Diego Zoo. So this, as we've learned on the show, is very, very uncommon. It is always more common, well, not always, obviously, but it is much more common for males to be heavier than females. But in the case of the spotted hyena, the females have the upper hand when it comes to weight, which is very amazing and not characteristic of a lot of different species, especially that we've covered on the show. I'm not sure if this is even a first, that where females weigh more than males. That's interesting. And the brown hyena is the next one, and this is the second largest. So it ranges from about 61 inches to 63 inches long, or 130 to 160 centimeters long, and it'll weigh about 75 to 160 pounds. Again, no calculators needed here. That is 34 to 72.6 kilograms. According to ADW. So they are indeed the second largest. And they can be distinguished from other hyenas by the long sort of shaggy hair, which is dark brown or black on the body and tan on the shoulders and neck. So the hair on their neck will grow to be about 12 inches long, and that's in contrast to the short hair that they have on the legs, face, and ears. And the tail is going to be very short and bushy, and their forelegs, which just means their front two legs, they are horizontally striped and are much longer and more massively built than the hind legs, which will give the brown hyena the appearance of always climbing a hill. So I think the brown hyena, when I think about hyenas, it sounds as if the brown hyena is the one that comes to mind specifically, just because I've never even thought about the fact that they have, that certain hyenas have longer forelegs than they do hind legs. It's super interesting, and I wonder why evolution selected for that trait. I have no idea, and it's not written here, but it's always fun to ask these sort of questions, because while evolution can be random, sometimes there is a process that occurs known as natural selection, where animals that are naturally more adapted to their environment will continue to breed and carry on those genes and perpetuate their adaptive trait. For example, it could be when we learned in the giraffe episode, having stronger necks, longer necks, it doesn't help for necessarily, going to the highest tree to get food. Rather, it helps in the interspecies competition among males in which they whack each other with their necks. So, of course, in that example, the giraffes who have the strongest necks will have the ability to breed with the females, therefore making the future giraffes have stronger and stronger necks over time. And in the case of the brown hyena, it's interesting to think, why are their forelegs longer than their hind legs? It's not as common, I believe, because having larger hind legs, I always attribute to being able to have plenty of power, jumping, and things like that. But maybe maybe this article will say later. I'm not sure. So the next species, the third species, is the striped hyena. So it's about 39 to 49 to 45 inches long. That's about 100 to 115 centimeters, and 26 to 30 inches or 66 to 75 centimeters tall from paw to shoulder, according to the San Diego Zoo. And their tails will add another 12 to 16 inches, so fairly long tails there, I suppose, relative to the rest of their body, and they will weigh from about 57 to 90 pounds. That's 26 to 41 kilograms. So we can see here, I think these species are in order of, biggest to smallest, which is a good way of ordering them, I suppose. And the striped hyenas have long hair that is gray to straw colored, so sort of that yellow tingish sort of color. So their muzzle is black, and there are black stripes on the head, the torso, and the legs as well. See, now I am not sure if I am thinking, when I think about hyenas, the striped hyena is actually fitting the bill a little bit more, I suppose, with the stripes everywhere. So that's quite possible. Now, the next and the last species of hyena, at least ones that have been discovered, I suppose, are the aardwolves, which is spelled Aardwolf. Now, I am familiar with a different species known as the aardvark, which is an anteater, and I'm not exactly sure. Maybe ard means something specific, something that I will probably search up at a later date. But that's kind of interesting that they're called aardwolves. And they're the smallest species of hyena. They will weigh from about 17.6 to 30.8 pounds, which is about 8 to 14 kilograms. And their length ranges from about 33 to 41 inches, which is about 85 to 105 centimeters, and about 1/4 of that is the tail. And the aardwolves resemble striped hyenas with similar fur texture and color as well, but I suppose it is the size that is the big differentiator here. And where hyenas live will depend almost entirely, I suppose, on their type. So brown hyenas have a very limited range and live only in southern Africa, including the Kalahari and Namib deserts. And they are usually found between the Angola-Namibia border and the Orange River in South Africa. So we see here that that specific species thrive in different areas, I suppose. And there are two distinct populations of aardwolves. One subspecies lives in Zambia, Angola, and Mozambique, as well as northeastern Uganda and Somalia. And the other subspecies extends into central Tanzania, Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt. So we see here that the aardwolf, with its two separate populations there, can cover a vast range of habitats. Maybe not types of habitats, but maybe areas, I suppose you could say. And spotted hyenas have a little bit larger range and live south of the Sahara deserts, one of the most popular deserts there is. Not to be confused with desserts. I think the most popular dessert, at least in my eyes, is the creme brulee. Oh my gosh! But let's not stray too far. They live south of the Sahara Desert, and they occur throughout sub-Saharan Africa, and are the most numerous large predators in the Serengeti. And the striped hyena has the largest range of them all. It lives in North and Northeast Africa, the Middle East and Asia, all the way to southern Siberia. So that is a very, very large range compared to some of the other hyena species, but also just in general for an animal. That is a very large range to have. And hyenas can adapt to almost any habitat and are found in habitats such as grasslands, woodlands, savannas, forest edges, sub-deserts, and mountains as high up as 13,000 feet, which is close to about 4,000 meters, according to the National Wildlife Foundation. So this makes hyenas very, very adaptable and amazing animals Truly, I did not know this at all prior to learning about them. This is also one of the animals that I think get mostly a bad rap, maybe from media and stuff like that, from different movies that they've been portrayed in as sort of these, not so nice creatures. But in fact, they are really, really interesting, adaptive, and broad-ranging species or family, I guess you can say, of hyenas. And the habits here. So let's go into some of their habits. So these are indeed very social animals, and they will live in groups that are referred to as clans, instead of herds or whatever. In this case, it is clans. And these clans of hyenas can have up to 80 members, according to the National Wildlife Foundation. So not only are spotted hyena females larger than males, they are also more aggressive and are dominant in the clans. So this is something that is referred to as a matriarchal sort of system, as opposed to a patriarchal alpha male kind of system that we've seen among many animals that we've covered on the show. But we have seen other animals where females will rank higher than males in the clan. We see this in, I believe, bonobos, and we see this in elephants as well. Two animals that we've covered on the show as well. And however, the brown and striped hyenas and aardwolves have male-dominated clans. So that is super interesting that species of the same family can have a different hierarchical structure to their groups. To have something as big as a complete shift in I guess leadership, where it's a female instead of a male. I don't see that very often in many species, where animals of the same family have this large of a discrepancy. It's usually a difference in, I suppose there might be some differences in behavior, maybe where they live around the world, maybe in terms of weight and stuff like that. But we're talking about here is a very drastic difference in the way groups function. Which is, I think, very amazing. And aardwolves are insectivores. They will eat only termites, which I imagine they have to eat a lot of them. And though the termites secrete a toxin, the aardwolves do not seem to be affected by it, which is, I suppose, a very adaptive trait that they have. And they will consume the termites by licking them off surfaces with their sticky and very flat tongues. And in a single night, they can consume up to 30,000 termites. So they are absolute machines when it comes to termites. And I think it's very cool that they have immunity, I suppose, to the toxin secreted by these termites. And it's actually a lot more common, I suppose, than I initially thought. So I definitely did not know this about certain hyena species, but I've seen this in other species. For example, there may be some species that hunt snakes that will become almost entirely immune to their toxin or poison, I suppose. I think it's more of a toxin, of certain snake species. So we see here that adaptation can be an absolute game changer for many of these animals. And the other hyena species, other than the aardwolves, are carnivores, which means that they only eat meat, as opposed to the aardwolves that are insectivores, meaning they only eat insects. So the other species, the other hyena species, they are known to take advantage of other animals' kills for some easy meals. So this is one of the biggest I suppose things, the most common things that people think about when they think about hyenas is that they are scavengers, and they've always been portrayed in media as sort of these scavengers that just scrounge for bits and pieces. But they aren't just scavengers. They can also hunt and fill their diet with animals as large as wildebeests, antelope, hippos, which is a really interesting one. I don't think I've ever seen hyenas hunt hippos before on National Geographic or anything like that, but that's super interesting. Also birds, jackals, lizards, fish, snakes, foxes, even porcupines, eggs, and insects as well. So we see that they really are not that picky. The hyena just wants to eat, and it's going to eat one way or another. And the size of the meal often is determined by how large the hyena clan is. So as we covered before, they can have up to 80 members, but that doesn't mean that they're absolutely, they have 80 members every time. Clans work together to take down prey, so the bigger the animal, the more members the clan will need to have a clean and successful kill and for them to be able to eat. So they often hide extra food in holes that are known as watering holes. Since nothing is wasted for the hyena, they will make sure they get every bit and piece that they can, and they will often eat every single part of the animal, including even the bones and hooves. So in order for animals to be able to bite through bone and hooves, they need very, very first of all, a strong jaw power, the ability to produce a large amount of pressure through their jaw, more than normal, or more than what's common, I suppose. And the second thing is they have to have very tough teeth to be able to handle that sort of pressure. So I think it's very amazing. Not a lot of animals are able to slice right through bone like hyenas are, so they have very, very powerful jaws. Mating will typically happen outside of the clan, so non-related males and females will mate after a courtship that can last not several hours, but several days. And after a gestation period of around 3 months, the female hyenas will give birth to typically about 2 to 4 young. And baby hyenas are called cubs, if you were wondering what they were. So mating happening typically outside of a clan, I suppose, can be good for genetic diversity and for adaptation purposes. I suppose maybe that's why, but sometimes I just have to make some assumptions or make some educated guesses. So I'm not entirely sure why they do that. And mothers in a clan will share the responsibility of nursing each other's young, and other members of the clan may bring food to the den for the cubs. So they do indeed, they aren't as selfish, I suppose, as I have thought in the past. They really do, they watch out for their own, which is always a good trait to see in animals. And cubs' eyes are sealed shut for the first 5 to 9 days, and at 2 weeks old, they are ready to leave the den. But they will eat nothing but mother's milk for the first 6 months and nurse for over a year. So nursing for over a year, it is not as, I suppose, it's still a fairly short amount of time in comparison to some other animals. It might be a long time, but when we compare these animals to many primate species or to humans, only nursing and being reliant on their mothers for a year is a very short amount of time. And at around 2 years, the cubs are considered completely mature and they're ready to leave their mother. So human beings cannot move out at 2 years old. So this is where we have to give some props to the hyena. And they will typically live around 10 to 21 years, although there are no statistics regarding how long they live in captivity. I've never seen a hyena in a zoo before. I don't know if they are kept in zoos. I'm not sure. If any of you know, you could always let me know. But I have never personally seen a hyena in real life. And there are currently 10,000 mature adult hyenas in the world, according to the National Wildlife Foundation. The hyena's only predator, really, is humans. So us humans are pretty much the apex predators of almost any environment that we're in, just because of the amount of technology that we have and intelligence. So these animals lose roaming areas specifically due to agricultural processes such as farming, and they are very commonly shot by ranchers for attacking their livestock. A big shame, because humans, a lot of these people rely on income of livestock, on farms and things like that, to sustain themselves financially. But of course the hyenas, they try to get what they can get, and sometimes they, I suppose, make a mistake of attacking livestock. And even so, the brown hyena is the only one really that is in danger of extinction. That's at least currently. So let's hope that no other species goes into extinction. So the brown hyena is classified as near threatened according to the International Union for Conservation of Nature. That's IUCN. And this is because the mean global population size. Okay, so I'm just going to really quick cover what does mean mean. This is a word that is often used in statistics and things like that. And many of you may have learned about it in elementary school or high school, but it's easy to forget these things. So there's generally the mean, the median, and the mode. I'm not going to go too deep into it. So the mean population size refers to the average population size, and it's estimated below about 10,000 mature individuals, which is not a lot of individuals, but of course, I suppose it could be a little bit worse. But it is estimated that the population may continue to decline about 10% over the next 3 generations, which equals about 24 years. So let's go to some quick little facts here. And some of these facts blew my mind, and I'm kind of skeptical about. So spotted hyenas can run up to 37 miles per hour, which is about 60 kilometers an hour. So they can run very, very quickly, which is awesome. And so one of the main things that people think about with hyenas are the whole laughing thing. Why do they laugh? So the spotted hyenas are known as laughing hyenas because they have a distinctive call that sound like human laughter. I've heard the spotted hyenas laugh before. I don't know how close it is to a human laugh. I don't know if I'd be friends with someone that laughed like a hyena. It might get a little bit, might make me a little uncomfortable. But it isn't a laugh at all. It is actually a sound that they make when they are excited but nervous, or when they are submitting to another hyena. So what this means is that they don't really laugh for fun. The pitch of the laugh and the note frequency or tone of a hyena's laugh can give an indication as to not only its age, but also its social status. So we can see, I suppose, when they submit to another hyena, this affects their social status directly. And they can make 10 other vocalizations other than laughing in order to communicate with their clan. Striped hyenas, unlike the spotted hyena, usually don't make any noise at all and instead communicate with body movements. So that is really, really cool. And the Maasai people of Kenya and Tanzania leave their dead to be consumed by hyenas instead of burying them, and that's according to National Geographic. And I wonder why they do that, maybe for some sort of spiritual reason or something. I have no idea, or maybe it's just a practical reason. Maybe they don't want to dig graves and things like that. I'm not sure, but that's something that is very, very cool that I'd like to research more. So this is the main fact that really got me thinking and got me skeptical. So this fact says that hyenas are smarter than chimps. So the second I read this fact, the dukes came up, okay, the fists came up, because I'm ready to fight on this. Just because I'm a little bit biased towards chimps and other primate species, just because I love them so much, and they're very, they've been known as being smart. So I'm always sort of skeptical when I read things like this. But it says here, the size of an animal's frontal cortex is believed to be connected to its social intelligence, and hyenas have a frontal cortex on par with primates. And a study done by Duke University showed that a captive pair of hyenas performed better at problem solving and social cooperation than chimpanzees. Duke University is fake news. I'm just kidding. This seems like a fairly credible study. And even more amazing is that during the study, the hyenas solved all the problems in silence, using only non-verbal signals for communication. So, okay, I'm gonna big ups to hyenas for that. I'm gonna give them props for being very smart. I'm gonna research more after the podcast and maybe talk about it next episode as to what my conclusion is as to, are hyenas smarter than chimps? It's gonna take me a lot to get there. And for the final fact of the show, let's talk about the name. So the etymology discovery and naming here. So the spotted hyena's scientific name is Crocuta, Crocuta, and it was once widely thought to be derived from the Latin loanword crocutus, which translates as saffron-colored one, in reference to the animal's fur color. So I think that's really cool. That's a cool fact there. Now, I'm not a big color guy, just because I'm almost positive that I am somewhat colorblind. So I'm not exactly sure what saffron even looks like, but let me know, for those of you that maybe are painters or know more about colors, does saffron colored one really apply to the hyena? Can you see it applying, I suppose? So that is the end of the episode. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to follow on Spotify. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you're listening, either you could follow, you can rate the podcast. It helps more people relax with animal facts. It helps the show grow. So whatever you do, thanks so much. And welcome everybody that was new to the Animal Facts podcast family. You can always send me an email at relaxwithanimalfacts@gmail.com if you want to have your animal on the show and you get a chance for a shout out as well. Well, it's not really a chance. If you do send me something that I do end up doing on the podcast, I always shout you out. And you can follow the Instagram RWF podcast if that is how you want to suggest an animal. You are more than welcome. I also post stories of things that I'm doing sometimes. So if you're interested in seeing Steph Wolf's life here and there, you can go ahead and follow that Instagram. But thank you all so much for tuning into the show. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you on the next podcast episode with the next animal. Take care.